Hi there. We start our show today with a reminder that although yesterday was the final day in Safer Sex Week, we still have a responsibility to protect ourselves from sexually transmitted infections, including HIV and AIDS and unplanned pregnancies. I'm Adrian Atkins and welcome to the show. On the pages today, doing the tests that give you those numbers to know if you are at risk for a heart attack or stroke. Also, delving into the world of apps. Plus, our top news stories of the week. These and more in the half hour. Please stay with us.
A message from the Bureau of Gender Affairs and the Dispute Resolution Foundation, paid for by the UN Women Fund for Gender Equality.
The island's sole oil refinery company, Petrojam, has been leading the charge to encourage people in communities surrounding the refinery to take responsibility for their fitness and health. The company has been giving back through its annual health fairs. More on it now.
Impacting.
It's the doctor. She assists me and feel a better in myself now, knowing that I see her. She tell me my status. So something where needed maybe a pre to get that off of my mind now, you know.
A one-stop shop for medical services and more.
I do my pressure check and I do my mammogram and it's okay.
I do the eye test and I do the cholesterol.
Yes, Petrojam Limited has hosted another successful health fair. Over 300 persons from the Greenwich Farm community and its environs, some as far as Seaview and even Constant Spring, were granted access to over 13 health services on the grounds of the refinery, all free of cost. Patrons were able to apply for birth certificates and sign up for the PATH program and yes, see the doctor for examination. Some did pap smears, glucose, hearing and HIV tests, as well as site screening. It was all about catering to their health and social needs. The health fair continues to be an exciting experience and a well-needed event even in its 8th staging.
Actually, this year it was big.
The persons are maximizing on the services more.
We have a shuttle service in place for the elderly and pregnant and persons who have problems coming. The shuttle service was used up a lot this year.
The health fair was planned by the Community Outreach Committee, made up of employees within the company, who in turn include family members and friends to serve as volunteers to get the job done. At this year's health fair, another batch of volunteers was added to the mix. They came from Petrojam's graduate internship program.
Being here at Petrojam, you adapt to the culture of service, of volunteering, of the spirit of community. So, you know, it was just natural for me. I couldn't let this opportunity pass. I had to be here and had to be a part of the team, the Petrojam team. You know what stood out for me today is the support by different organizing bodies. There are people from the health ministries, from ODFEM. So many persons came out and support because they thought it's also important. So that really just, you know, really blew my mind.
We believe based on feedback we have been getting from the community persons, they like how they are treated and they really enjoy what Petrojam is doing for the community.
Petrojam believes in building Jamaica through community development, and as such, the company has gone much further than focusing on the physical well-being of community members.
We also partner with the Greenwich All-Age School. We provide GSAT scholarships to their 2 top students every year, a boy and a girl. We actually have that program for quite a few years now. I had our 2 GSAT scholars who graduated from 5th form recently, so we're really proud of that fact. We provide a homework center for the GSAT students, and so they can come here. We let them have access to the internet
We have an instructor who is a trained teacher who assists them with their lessons and help them along. We provide assistance not only to the Reggae Boys, but we provide assistance to the Greenwich Hall Football Club.
They have hit the nail on the head. I'm proud of Petrojam. Very proud. Me appreciate this. Because we don't have to pay nothing, and I'm glad to see it. Because right now, me sick and me can't afford doctor bill. And doctor bill right now too expensive. Petrojam has been doing good for the community.
Another year, another successful staging. Petrojam thanks all its staff, sponsors, and participants for their support. Petrojam, serving Jamaica's energy needs.
Join the fight. Quit smoking for life.
The impact of road accidents, injuries and deaths creates a huge burden on the country socially and economically. So government has made it a priority to stem this hindrance to development.
Reducing the high spate of road traffic injuries and deaths is one primary focus of the Portia Simpson Miller-led administration for fiscal year 2013-2014. Government's drive to improve road safety is important to the overall safety and security of all Jamaicans and is part of the wider plan to make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families and do business. Making the traffic environment safer, if achieved, will save the country unnecessary expenses and impact positively on national development.
Billions are expended on police resources to deter bad road behavior and to respond to and investigate cases after accidents. Billions are used to equip hospitals to handle emergency cases and dispense medication, and it costs insurance companies billions in payouts, resulting from many avoidable mishaps.
High accident rates also push up the cost of motor vehicle insurance, making it an economic burden for individuals. Lost productivity due to serious injuries and worse, loss of life from fatal crashes are immeasurable hindrances to personal and national development.
The need for action in the area of road safety is most critical and crucial at this time, as we only serve to hinder our growth and development with the spate of accidents on our streets.
It is a daunting task, but government is finding success in a number of initiatives to make road safety a reality for all. Records from the Transport Ministry's Road Safety Unit showed fewer people dying from road crashes in 2012 than in 2011. The 256 fatalities, though still not acceptable, was a step in the right direction and resulted from targeted interventions.
Education and information, engineering and traffic environment, enforcement and legislation, evaluation and emergency response. So it's a multiplicity of agencies, both non-governmental and governmental and private sector, who are involved in this tied to stem traffic fatalities.
Even as the nation missed its target to reduce road fatalities below 240 in 2013, this important goal remains a priority. All road users are called upon to exercise safety and obey the road traffic laws so as to further reduce crashes that can lead to injuries and death. The National Road Safety Council, the NRSC, and its partners are redoubling their efforts to achieve the below 240 target between 2013 and 2016. The strategy involves paying greater attention to groups at a higher risk of being killed on the roads: men, pedestrians, children and seniors, among others. The NRSC is also working with the police to better manage the traffic environment, hotspots and periods when fatal accidents are likely to occur. It's facilitating the safe movement of our people as they head to home, school, work or social engagements. Public awareness campaigns designed to influence behavioral change among road users are also being employed. They encourage citizens to walk, ride and drive for life.
This initiative might not be a panacea for all the ills of our road situation, but if we can just inject road safety vaccines through the positive messages we intend to send, then we would go a far way at curbing the negative behavior out there.
This is one time we don't want you to laugh.
Don't drink and drive. Cut your speed and save lives.
Further afield, Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller has called on world leaders to make road safety an integral part of the post-2015 Sustainable Development Goal Framework.
Tackling road traffic injuries is an important and achievable objective which should be part of the agenda. The most effective way to reduce the appalling health burden of road traffic injuries is to integrate road safety securely within wider goals.
The Transport Authority, responsible for regulating and monitoring public transportation, has been improving its structure, organization, and service delivery. As of November 2013, prosecution resumed for the non-wearing of badges by all drivers and conductors of licensed public passenger vehicles. Periodic road safety audits, which began in July on all new road projects, including Highway 2000, is also being done to ensure safety in the traffic environment. Road surfaces are being upgraded to improve the movement of disabled persons. Guardrails in several parishes have been replaced under the Inter-American Development Bank's Road Improvement Program, and a new road traffic bill is to be promulgated in Parliament to address modern road safety challenges. Among other things, it will limit the use of cell phones and other in-car devices while driving.
And stiffer penalties for breaches of the road code. It will also speak to the certification of driving instructors, who will then teach a standardized curriculum as part of a new graduated driver's licensing system. This will see drivers being licensed in phases.
Making the traffic environment safe, contributing to the overall safety and security of all Jamaicans, a strategic priority for the Portia Simpson Miller-led administration as it implements the 2013-2014 development plan.
The digital age has brought with it new occupations. Today, persons are preoccupied with jobs such as programmers, web developers, and more recently, apps or application developers. Competitions such as Digital Jam 3.0 have been attracting persons with these skills, encouraging them to put their craft to the test. More in this next feature.
Empowering young people to create their own employment, a human capital development strategy being employed by the Ministry of Science, Technology, Energy and Mining. For the past 2 years, the ministry has been increasing its training and mentorship programs to prepare young persons to take advantage of the possibilities that exist within the digital age. One successful tool in 2013 was Digital Jam 2.0. In 2014, it's being re-engineered and upgraded as Digital Jam 3.0 Caribbean Edition.
It's an initiative that the government of Jamaica, in partnership with the World Bank and a number of other development agencies, has embarked on to deal with the issue of youth unemployment.
Through Digital Jam 3.0, young people between ages 15 and 30 years will compete to develop software applications that can lead to lucrative business opportunities. It embraces the new face of work.
There are sites out there that allow persons to stay at home once they are connected to the internet and they can legitimately earn a living and make money by going online. The cheapest app sells for 99 US cents. That's the cheapest one, and it goes up. Now, if you have access to billions of persons and a small cross-section, let's say 1 million people decide to buy your app, you have an opportunity to make real money in hard currency.
And this competition provides that platform through the different focus areas. One is the apps competition for smartphones and tablets, which encourages persons to build mobile apps. This category, which is now closed to applications, received 180 submissions from across the Caribbean. 55 were shortlisted, including 37 from Jamaica. Some competitors will focus on creating apps for all operating systems, while others will concentrate on building gaming applications.
The reason we are encouraging gaming applications, we have seen certainly in education where using gaming technology makes it easier for students to learn and for students to understand difficult concepts. So we are hoping that we can apply the gaming technology in the educational sector.
And with the government getting ready to distribute 30,000 tablets in the new school year, a new category, apps for e-learning, will encourage young developers to provide local content.
So we want apps that can show persons how they can access content that exists both in the e-world and also in the real world.
If you have an interest in this area, there is still time to submit your ideas. The Apps for e-learning deadline has been extended until February 16. Just log on to facebook.com/digitaljam3. Once you are on, click on the link to access the registration form, fill it out, and click submit. Some attractive prizes of Apple MacBooks, Samsung Galaxy S4, Nokia Lumia smartphones, Windows 8 laptops, Android tablets, and Acer C7 Chromebook are just a few in store.
But the most important prize, I think, is the opportunity for those persons to have exposure to both local and international experts who can help them to refine their idea, help them to build a business, tell them what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, and hopefully give them an opportunity to compete in the global marketplace.
So between now and March 1 and 2, all Caribbean finalists will have the opportunity to refine their ideas with technical, financial, and marketing advice from experts in the business.
They're challenged in their, in their idea, in the concept. We guide them to ask the questions, and of course to find the answer then to those questions. So how will you make money with this? Why the user should use your product, why they will buy your product, and so on.
This is to prepare them for the big day at the University of the West Indies Mona campus, Vice Chancellor's Building, where they will present a more perfected prototype of their submissions to local and foreign interests.
They will have an opportunity to pitch their ideas in front of really what will be a global audience, and they'll have an opportunity to seek funding for the concepts and the ideas that they have developed. Really what we hope is that one or two or maybe more of those persons who are finalists will attract funding and can actually go out there and build and develop a business for themselves.
The finals on March 1 and 2 will also take the form of a hackathon, where new and existing teams of programmers will compete against an allotted time on an apps project. Digital Jam 3.0 Caribbean Edition is sponsored by several partners. These include the Sir Patrick I Believe Initiative, the Development Bank of Jamaica, Caribbean Development Bank, the Canadian High Commission, Microsoft Jamaica, Organization of Eastern Caribbean States Secretariat Dominica Office, Jamaica National Building Society, Lime, E-Learning Company Limited, and The Gleaner. Outreach support also came from other groups such as JSIF, JAMPRO, ESIH School of Haiti, and FLOW. The Ministry of Science and Technology, after the finals of Digital Jam 3.0 Caribbean Edition, will continue to provide avenues in technology that will create self-employment for young persons and generate income.
Jamaica's music has gained worldwide recognition and garnered international fans. But as you'll see next, the biggest fans remain Jamaicans.
I like Jamaican music because it is a reality.
It educates us, motivates us, and gives us strength to know that we are Jamaican and we are proud to be a Jamaican.
Give you great happiness of who you really are. So as Jamaican music, it motivates you to be stronger. It's always giving you an encouraging stepping stone. Most songs, they give you some form of encouragement.
The rhythm, just the rhythm.
The beat, it's something that that is catchy, that keeps you moving as soon as you hear it.
Jamaican music, the one I like still. The one I deal with your truths and your rights, facts how the country I run, and you know, the little youth them, tell them how to come up in our life, you know, the facts, you see it.
Jamaican music, I best reggae music, man, every time, man. Big up Jamaica.
We now recap our top news stories from the week.
Hi there, I'm Simone Wolf with your JIS News of the Week. An IMF mission to Jamaica this week confirmed that the country had passed its third quarterly test under the Extended Fund Facility. Head of mission Yan Keys Martin told reporters in Kingston Thursday that Jamaica met all quantitative targets and structural benchmarks for the October to December 2013 period.
The execution of the government budget for 2013-14 has been broadly on track, notwithstanding shortfalls in tax revenues, owing in particular to weak domestic demand. Overall, policy implementation under the program remains strong.
Mr. Martin said the IMF board could review the staff level assessment by the end of March, and if accepted, about $71 million more would be disbursed to Jamaica. Finance Minister Dr. Peter Phillips outlined some of the major issues to be dealt with going forward.
Issues of the design of the macro framework, the design and implementation of the fiscal rule, tax reform and tax administration, and most importantly, the issue of accelerating economic growth.
The finance minister also addressed an economic forum this week and assured Jamaicans and potential investors that the country's financial system remained strong amidst austerity measures on the government's economic reform program.
There is no reason to have any suspicion about the integrity and the financial stability of any of the institutions. Our regulatory environment is sound. Our regulatory standards, in fact, exceed those in the Basel III standards and provisions, and we are confident in the stability and sustainability of the financial system.
Head of the UWI Department of Economics, Dr. Damian King, was at the forum and asserted that the economic reform program was the critical element to economic growth.
The fiscal reform is the critical element in a program of economic growth, and it alone has the potential to move us towards a trajectory of economic growth. So the calls for a separate growth agenda are at best sort of missing the main point of the problem that we have.
Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller informed Parliament Tuesday that her overseas assignments since she took office in 2012 have had economic or other benefits for the country. Mrs. Simpson Miller said she undertook 25 overseas assignments between January 2012 and December 2013 with a cost of $15.15 million for her expenses. She also disclosed that $117.8 million had been spent to support the overseas engagements of other government members during the period.
Apart from the funerals, every trip that I've made could yield some benefit to Jamaica, economic and otherwise. Everyone.
Government will be spending approximately $2.4 billion on social programs to benefit sugar-dependent communities over the next 3 years. Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller made that announcement at a ceremony to hand over 39 housing units at the Steelfield Spicy Hill Housing Development in Duncan's Trelawney. She said expenditure would go towards schools, health and sport facilities.
This funding, you should note, is in addition to the approximately $900 million which has already been disbursed to sugar workers and small cane farmers to cushion the effect of the fallout from the divestment of the public sector sugar estates.
Meanwhile, 40 residents of Donaldson in eastern St. Thomas are now proud beneficiaries of land titles for serviced lots developed in their community by the Housing Agency of Jamaica, the HAJ. At the function, the Minister with Portfolio Responsibility for Housing, Dr. Maurice Guy, asserted that the land titling program had the potential to grow the economy and told the title holders they had a part to play in that process.
Because you hold property, you hold asset, you all hold something that you can use as collateral. We recognize that for Jamaica to prosper and to develop, and by extension the people of our country to develop, the economy has to grow. And how can you grow the economy unless you do something with the assets of this country?
Government has contributed $32 million to expand and extend the life of the Youth Upliftment Through Employment Program, YOUth. Youth Limited, several government ministries, the Hartrust NTA and National Housing Trust have signed a memorandum of understanding to roll out Phase 2 of the program. At the signing, Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller expressed satisfaction at this next step, but recommended that the training be fit to meet the needs of the global logistics hub.
This initiative qualifies as one that will have a ripple effect in this country for generations to come. We should ensure we look at the requirements for the logistics hub and how we can begin to train young persons so that once we get that program going, then they will be able to gain employment.
And finally, work began this week on the permanent restoration and reconstruction of road infrastructure in St. Mary and Portland that were damaged after heavy rainfall in January. Transport Works and Housing Minister Dr. Omar Davies told Parliament on Tuesday that the total estimated cost for the restorative work was $197 million.
Being acutely aware of limited fiscal space, my ministry has had to find ways to finance the restorative works without seeking additional resources from the Ministry of Finance.
And those were some of the stories making news this week. I'm Simone Wolf.
We've come to the close of today's edition of Jamaica Magazine. Remember to make healthy choices through proper diet, exercise and rest so you can stay fit and healthy. We value your feedback, so drop us a line, send an email to jamaicamagazine@jis.gov.jm. You may also follow us on Twitter at JIS News. On behalf of the entire team here at the JIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson, inviting you to join us again tomorrow. Until then, do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.